I got an email from a first responder. He told me he wanted to share his scary story time about something that happened while he was working a shift. We're calling him Aaron. He wanted to be anonymous because this does relate to his professional career, and it happened while he was working a 24-hour shift as a fireman. This happened in October of 2018, October 1st to be exact. Aaron's working his 24-hour shift at the fire hall. He said he works in a small suburban town, and he decided to go to bed at 9:30. It was a relatively slow night. He said they all have bunk beds, but it's in one room. At 11:15 that night, he wakes up startled with a feeling of dread and a heavy feeling that someone's in the room with him. He looks at the doorway and he sees a figure. The figure is a woman. She's facing away from him. She has blonde hair. She has a gray turtleneck sweater and blue jeans on. As he's processing what's happening and the adrenaline hits, she turns to look at him. Her face is gone, and then she disappears. He chalks it up to a dream, but he has trouble falling asleep because he can't shake the feeling that he's not alone, and he tosses and turns all night. Around 5 o'clock in the morning, the station alarms start going off. He dresses himself, and he goes to get on the ambulance. As he's walking to the ambulance, he thinks about what happened in his room, and he mentions to his partner that he thinks that this call might involve a woman. They get on the ambulance. He looks at the notes, and it says, "Female hung herself in the garage. Husband states she is beyond help." After arriving at the address, it was his job as the paramedic in charge to enter the house and confirm that she was in fact deceased. The husband opens up the garage door for him and the police, and he expects to see a woman hanging from the rafters, but that was not the case. The garage was full of items, and she was out of view. The husband points to the back corner and says she's back there. Aaron enters the garage and says he was met with the same feeling that he felt earlier in his room, and at this point he was an experienced paramedic and had never had this feeling before, so he walks behind a large refrigerator that's blocking her from view, and he sees her, and he said the best way to describe what happened was that his soul left his body and joined his coworkers outside the garage. The woman was hanging from the rafters with an extension cord tied around her neck, and she was wearing blue jeans and a gray turtleneck sweater. She was also blonde. The way her body was hanging was faced away from him, so he could not see her face. He approached her, put his hand on her shoulder, and she was just as cold as the blood that was running through his veins. He was the first person to make contact with her after her death, and it was the same woman that he saw in his room just hours before. Weeks later, he found out from the coroner's report that she had died around the same time that she appeared in his room that night. Aaron said his career and life changed after that night. He became known as the ghost guy at work, and he's had a lot of strange experiences after that night. It's almost like he has a sixth sense. I emailed Aaron back and I said, "Why do you think she appeared to you?" And he said, "I have no explanation other than maybe those things have happened before and I've just never paid attention before." I also asked Aaron what he thinks people should take away from this story, and he said that his answer is both broad and direct at the same time because there's three worlds that exist. The first is the world that we perceive. The second world is that which he and others in his profession refer to as the street, in which bad things happen to good people all the time. The third world is the spiritual world in which all of us live, but hardly any of us perceive. Aaron said it's uncommon, but sometimes all three of these worlds collide and create a very real, vivid experience that you can't understand unless you experience it yourself. Aaron also ended his email with a quote, "The closer you are to death, the more alive you feel." If you have any words for Aaron, please feel free to leave them in a comment. I'll be sending him the link to this video once it's posted. And keep sending me your spooky, scary stories. I have a new submission form if you want to send me yours. It's in the link in my bio. Also, I have polls every day on my Insta where you can vote on the next story.